You weren't weak because you broke. You broke because something in you still cared, still wanted more, still hoped for something better. This audiobook isn't here to comfort you. It's here to rebuild you, piece by piece, using the very thing that tried to destroy you. Your pain has a purpose. Use it, or let it use you. Chapter 1. The first cut hurts the deepest. Pain doesn't ask permission. It just walks in and tears the place apart. You don't remember the exact moment it started. Maybe it was a conversation that went sideways, a betrayal you didn't see coming, a loss you pretended didn't break you. Maybe it wasn't one moment. Maybe it was 1,000 little ones, piling up like dust no one bothered to clean. But then one day, everything cracked. Not loud, not cinematic, just cracked, quiet and personal. Now, if you want to return, why don't you go back to London? Something inside you split in a way you couldn't explain, and suddenly you knew. Things weren't going back to the way they were. That's the first cut. And it hurts in a way nothing else ever has. Not because it's louder, not because it's bloodier, but because it's real. This cut isn't on your skin. It's inside your foundation. It doesn't bleed, it rearranges. You try to stay calm. Try to pretend it's not that deep. But your chest feels heavier. Your thoughts get slower. You're in a room full of people, and somehow you feel more alone than when you're actually alone. You're still showing up, still smiling, still performing, but you know something's changed. That's what real pain does. It doesn't just hurt, it rewires. Pain strips you of pride, of illusions, of the masks you didn't even realize you were wearing. And the worst part? No one sees it. There's no cost, no bruise, no timeline for healing. It's invisible, which means you don't get sympathy. You get silence, and in that silence, the man you were before can't survive this kind of pain. But the man you're becoming can. Pain shows you who you are. In a strange way, pain is honest. It doesn't flatter. It doesn't negotiate. It doesn't care about your plans, or your schedule, or your reputation. It shows up, kicks the door in, and points a flashlight at the corners you'd been avoiding. The parts you hoped no one would ever notice. And there it is, the version of you you've been hiding from. Weak, afraid, passive, addicted to comfort, stretched thin by distractions, distracted by validation. You told yourself you were focused, but it was a lie. You told yourself you were in control, another lie. Pain has a way of turning off the noise and forcing you to face the mirror without filters. That moment, when the mirror clears, that's the first real opportunity to rebuild. You just have to resist the urge to run. Most men do. They chase comfort like it's salvation. They medicate, overwork, overscroll, overcommit. They chase women they don't love, jobs they don't believe in, friends they don't trust. Why? Because anything is better than being alone with what hurts. But here's the truth. What you refuse to face now will rule you later. The pain doesn't disappear. It just waits. And when it comes back, it comes harder, smarter, colder. And this time, it won't just break you. It'll harden you into someone you were never meant to become. Pain isn't the problem. Your response is. You're not weak for hurting. You're not soft because it broke you. You're human. And in that pain, you're being offered a choice: collapse or confront. You want to be a stronger man? Good. Here's the entrance fee. Full exposure to what broke you. The kind of pain that rewires you is the same pain that can remake you, if you let it, if you sit with it, if you stop asking when it'll end, and start asking what it's here to teach you. That's when you move. That's when the healing begins. Not when the pain fades, but when you stop running. Because there's one truth no one wants to admit. You can't outrun what lives inside you. Chapter 2. Stop running. Start facing. Pain chased you because you never turned to face it. There's a quiet kind of panic most men live with. Not the screaming kind, the slow, anxious kind. The kind that gnaws at you when you're alone. The kind you try to outrun with noise, achievement, or distraction. But it's always there, waiting. The truth is, you've been running for a long time. Running from what hurt you. Running from what shamed you. Running from the version of you that didn't win, didn't measure up, didn't feel enough. And like a man lost in the desert, you convince yourself that if you just keep moving, you'll finally outrun the storm. But the storm isn't behind you. It's inside you. You don't escape it by going faster. You escape it by standing still and turning around. Avoidance gives you the illusion of safety, that if you just stay busy enough, distracted enough, loud enough, the pain won't find you. But that's a lie. Pain has patience. It waits in silence, growing sharper every time you avoid it. You're not hiding from pain. You're feeding it. Every excuse, every delay, every fake smile, you're making it stronger. And one day, it'll walk straight into your life and flip the table you've been trying to set just right. It'll remind you that the foundation underneath everything you built is cracked. And cracked foundations don't hold. The longer you run, the more it costs. You'll lose yourself in the chase, pretending, performing, numbing, and by the time you stop, you won't just be tired, you'll be lost. You'll look in the mirror and not recognize the man staring back. Because a man who keeps running never builds anything that lasts. What facing actually means. Let's be clear. Facing your pain doesn't mean wallowing in it. It doesn't mean romanticizing your wounds or becoming addicted to your own suffering. It means staring into the thing that hurts without flinching. It means sitting in the silence and letting the shame rise. It means calling out the memory, the mistake, the moment that cracked you. Not to drown in it, but to drain it. To release what's been rotting in your chest for far too long. You think it'll destroy you, but what actually destroys men is pretending they're fine. Men who face what broke them don't get weaker. They get sharper, more dangerous. Because pain, when faced, becomes fuel, becomes fire, becomes forward motion. The mask must go. Most men live behind a mask. The achiever, the jokester, the provider, the protector. Roles that feel noble, but often serve one real purpose: to hide what hurts. But masks slip, and when they do, you either collapse or finally breathe. Facing your pain strips the mask. It says, no more pretending, not to your boss, not to your friends, not to yourself. And when the mask is gone, something else happens. You begin to feel whole. Not perfect, not invincible, but whole. Because nothing's hiding anymore. You're just there, raw, exposed, real. And in that place a man can finally rebuild. What happens when you stop running? You hear your own voice again, not the one you use to please others, not the one you use to stay liked, your real voice, the one buried under years of avoidance. You begin to make decisions not from fear, but from focus, not from guilt, but from truth. You stop apologizing for needing time alone. You stop explaining your standards. You start honoring your energy like it actually matters, because it does. You stop chasing distractions and start building discipline. You stop hiding and start healing. You stop reacting and start responding. That's what happens when a man faces what broke him. He stops being broken. This is the turning point. This chapter is the mirror. It's where you decide. Keep running and lose more of yourself every year. Or stop. Face it. All of it. And rise from it like a man who's tired of pretending. Because running takes energy, so does rebuilding. The only question is, what are you spending yours on? The pain will still be there, but so will the power. And the power only comes to the man who turns around and says, enough. Let's deal with this. Chapter 3. You don't heal by hiding. What you bury grows roots, and roots tear through everything. Most men think healing looks like pretending you're fine. Smile more, say you're over it, stay busy. Tell everyone, I'm good, even when you feel like you're suffocating. That isn't healing. That's hiding, and hiding doesn't fix pain. It preserves it. It locks it in a room and hopes if you don't look at it long enough, it'll vanish. But pain doesn't work like that. Pain doesn't fade because you ignore it. It waits, quietly, grows roots, deeper, stronger, until one day it cracks through your floor when you least expect it. You say you're moving on, but you're really just dragging the wreckage with you, pretending it's not there because you've covered it in productivity and noise. But pain doesn't die in darkness, it multiplies. The illusion of strength. There's a lie a lot of men believe, that being unaffected is the same as being strong. That if you just bury the emotions deep enough, nothing can touch you. But numbness isn't power, it's paralysis. You start to move through life like a ghost. Smiling on cue, performing under pressure, achieving enough to distract others from the truth. But inside, you feel hollow, detached, cold. You start to fear silence, because silence means you might actually feel something, and that's terrifying. But here's the truth no one taught you growing up. Feeling pain doesn't make you weak. Avoiding it does. The strongest men you'll ever meet aren't the loudest or the most put together. They're the ones who've sat in silence with their pain and walked out of the fire without needing applause for it. They didn't hide. They didn't fake it. They healed because they faced it. Healing is work, not distraction. Healing isn't passive. It doesn't happen just because time passes. Time doesn't heal. Attention does. Ownership does. Effort does. You have to name the thing. You have to revisit the wound. You have to sit with the version of yourself you've been avoiding. Not to relive it, but to finally release it. That means letting go of the guilt you've been carrying like armor, forgiving the betrayal you never got closure for, admitting the mistakes you tried to bury under perfectionism, feeling the loss you told yourself wasn't that deep. It's not about becoming emotional. It's about becoming honest. The cost of hiding. When you hide from your pain, it doesn't stay quiet. It leaks into your relationships, your work, your body, your decisions. You lash out when you don't mean to. You avoid love because you don't trust it. You sabotage good things because something in you thinks you don't deserve them. You push people away because getting close feels like exposure. You live small because safety feels better than growth. You stop building. You start coping. And over time, your life becomes one long list of what you're managing instead of what you're creating. Exposure is the beginning of real healing. There's no healing in shadows, only survival. If you want peace, you have to pull the pain into the light, not for the world to see, but for you to see. To finally stop lying to yourself about what it did, what it changed, and how long you've been carrying it. This means being raw. Not dramatic, not performative. Raw. No scripts, no filters, no fake strength. Just the truth. That broke me, that scared me, that still hurts. I haven't let it go because I never learned how. This kind of honesty is not weakness. It's power. Because now you're finally talking to the version of yourself that actually needs help, not the mask you've been polishing for years. You can't heal what you won't feel. You want to grow? Then feel it. All of it. The ache you've been numbing with your phone. The sadness you've been covering with sarcasm. The anger you've buried under discipline. The fear you've labeled as just being busy. That's the hard part, but it's also the only part that changes you. Healing isn't becoming someone new. It's returning to the man you were before the world taught you to hide. Before shame took the wheel. Before silence became your shield. It's not about fixing a broken version of you. It's about reclaiming the one that got buried. The real power in vulnerability. You've been taught vulnerability is weakness, that showing pain is exposure, that exposure leads to judgment, and judgment leads to rejection. But real power isn't in how much you hide, it's in how much truth you can carry without breaking. The man who feels and still moves forward, that is strength. The man who admits what broke him but doesn't let it define him, that is courage. The man who can say, I hurt, and still build anyway, that is dangerous. And the man who finally says, I need to face this, instead of, I'm fine, that's the man who's ready to lead, not others, but himself. Pain demands a response. You can't ignore pain forever. Eventually, it demands a response, and that response determines who you become. Avoid it, and it owns you. You don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to cry in public or post about your wounds. But you do need to stop pretending, because pretending is what's killing you. Silently, slowly. Every day you lie to yourself about how okay you are. Your future shrinks. Your fire dims. Your edge dulls. You stop living. You start surviving. And survival is not why you're here. What happens when you stop hiding? When you stop hiding, you stop needing so much. You stop needing validation from people who don't know you. You stop needing to be right all the time. You stop needing to prove your worth through output. You stop needing to look strong just to feel secure. You find peace in solitude. You find clarity in silence. You find strength in truth, even the ugly kind. You stop measuring your growth by how much you accomplish and start measuring it by how much you own. That's what happens when the hiding stops. You don't become perfect. You become present. And that presence, that's where healing finally begins. This chapter ends where the real work starts. So ask yourself, what are you still hiding? What have you locked up so tightly, not even you go there anymore? And what would happen if, just once, you opened the door? Not to collapse, not to wallow, but to release. You're not here to carry that pain forever. You're here to transform it. But nothing transforms in darkness. Everything worth building starts with light, even if it burns a little. So stop hiding. Chapter 4. Pain is a teacher that doesn't care if you like the lesson. Comfort coddles. Pain corrects. Pain doesn't explain itself. It doesn't sit you down, pat your shoulder, and walk you through a neatly bullet-pointed list of growth opportunities. It just arrives, uninvited, unannounced, and begins its work. It doesn't care if you're ready. It doesn't care if it's fair. It doesn't care if you think you deserve it, because pain isn't there to coddle you. It's there to correct you. When nothing else could reach you, pain did. Not the advice, not the warnings, not even the people who loved you. But pain, it found you, cut through all the noise, and demanded your attention. You don't learn discipline in comfort. You don't build courage on easy days. You don't become a stronger man by being protected from pain. You become a stronger man because of it. Every scar has a story, and every lesson worth remembering was bought with a price. Pain is the cost of becoming. Pain is inconvenient. It shows up when you're finally starting to feel stable, when you think you found your pace, when the illusion of control is just starting to feel real. And then, it flips the table. Because pain is not polite. It is not convenient. It is not considerate of your schedule, your milestones, or your comfort zone. It comes when it's needed, not when it's wanted. It's the teacher no one wants in the room, the one that doesn't raise its voice, but everyone listens when it speaks. Why comfort keeps you weak? Comfort whispers. It tells you you're okay when you're not. It convinces you to wait one more day, to stay a little longer in that relationship you've outgrown, to accept less from yourself because at least it's not that bad. Comfort is quiet poison. It numbs the pain, dulls the edge, softens the man. Pain is the opposite. Pain slaps the lies off the table. Pain forces you to see what comfort helped you avoid. Pain is loud. It is clear. It doesn't care about your feelings. It cares about your future. You want to grow? Then learn to get uncomfortable. Learn to stop flinching when life demands more from you. Pain doesn't hate you. It riddles you. Lessons that only hurt can teach you. Learn self-respect when someone crosses a line and it wrecks you.
You learn honesty when a lie costs you someone you loved. You learn boundaries when being too soft leaves you drained and used. You learn focus when distraction leaves your dreams untouched for another year. These aren't theories. These are blood-earned truths. No book, no podcast, no course will give you what pain can in a single season of fire. If you pay attention, pain becomes your blueprint, a brutal, sacred guide to becoming who you were meant to be. But most men never look closely enough to learn. They just want out. They just want it gone. And in doing so, they miss the entire point.
Pain is the mirror. Pain will show you where your principles collapse. Pain will show you who you really are under pressure. Pain will show you how much of your life is a performance. It strips away your curated self-image and leaves you with something raw, the real you. And yes, maybe that version is scared. Maybe it's angry. Maybe it's ashamed. But it's real. And real is where you start building from. You cannot grow what you refuse to see. You cannot repair what you deny is broken. Pain doesn't just point out the crack in the wall. It tears it open so you finally fix the foundation. The men who listen to pain become dangerous. Not dangerous in violence, dangerous in clarity, in purpose, in presence. They move differently, speak less, mean more. They don't chase noise. They don't need applause. They don't need to explain why they cut certain people off, why they guard their time, or why they walk away without looking back. They learned in fire. They carry scars, like armor. And they don't flinch at hardship, because they've met worse, and didn't break. That's the man pain creates, if you let it teach you. If you fight it, avoid it, numb it, you stay soft. Pretend tough, loud on the outside, hollow underneath. But if you submit to the lesson, and yes, it will humble you, you will walk out of the fire a different man. Not a louder man, a deeper one. You don't have to like the lesson, just learn it. No one likes it, no one wants it. But every man who became something more than average had to walk through it. Through betrayal, through failure, through loss, through doubt. And on the other side, they were changed. Not just improved, forged. So let pain do its work. Let it teach you. Let it scrape off the weak parts, the fake parts, the parts that were never truly you. You won't enjoy it, but one day you'll thank it. Because when comfort lied to you, pain told you the truth. And that truth, that's where you begin again. Chapter 5. The fire is forging you. You're not falling apart. You're being reforged. This isn't destruction, it's transformation. But transformation rarely feels like growth when you're inside it. It feels like collapse. It feels like chaos. It feels like you're being stripped of everything that once held you together. Every plan, every identity, every illusion. What's really happening is this. The life you built on false comfort is being dismantled to make room for the one that can hold your real strength. The problem is, transformation doesn't introduce itself. It doesn't show up with a warning. It arrives as loss, as pain, as silence, as a complete undoing. You feel like you're falling apart, but what's actually falling apart is the version of you that couldn't carry what's next. This is not a collapse, it's a crucible. You're not losing yourself, you're shedding the skin that kept you small. You're burning off the stories that kept you compliant, the habits that kept you numb, the lies you told yourself just to keep going. That version of you, the one built on people-pleasing, pretending, and performance, he served his purpose. He got you this far, but he can't go any further. The pain you're in right now, that's the heat of purification. That's the heat of becoming. The fire isn't your end, it's your evolution. The fire doesn't destroy the man, it reveals the metal he's made of. The forge is violent, but it's holy. A blacksmith doesn't whisper to the blade. He doesn't coddle it or wait for its permission. He slams it onto the anvil. He bends it, stretches it, tests it. Then he puts it into fire, again and again, until the blade is strong enough to be trusted. That's what life is doing to you. You've been melted in the heat of disappointment, hammered by betrayal, quenched in the icy silence of rejection, bent by the weight of responsibility you didn't ask for, reheated by failures that made you question everything. Every hit you took, preparation. Every heartbreak, refinement. Every loss, a chance to let go of what's no longer yours. This isn't punishment, it's process. And no man becomes who he's meant to be without going through the forge. There's no shortcut around it, no hack, no exit ramp. You walk through it, eyes open, fists clenched, teeth gritted, and you let it do its work. One blow at a time, one burn at a time, one breath at a time. It's not just pain, it's permission to become something stronger. But they weren't. They were placeholders. Temporary scaffolds meant to be torn down. This collapse you're going through? It's not the end of your story. It's the demolition before the rebuild. It's the blueprint being rewritten. You're being shaped, not casually, not accidentally, but relentlessly, deliberately, not into who the world told you to be, but into who you actually are, under all the noise. And yes, it hurts. It's supposed to, because real growth feels like death at first. You're not broken. You're being carved into something clean. The fire burns away the echo. Most of what you've been reacting to isn't real anymore. It's memory. It's fear. It's voices from your past echoing into your present. Every decision shaped by a wound. Every hesitation fueled by old pain. Every delay. Every self-doubt, every second guess rooted in someone else's voice planted years ago. But fire doesn't tolerate ghosts. It burns them. The fire removes what's borrowed. It silences what doesn't belong. It vaporizes the noise, all the expectations you inherited but never chose. And when the echoes are gone, what's left? Stillness, weight, clarity, and truth. You'll feel exposed. You'll feel uncertain, but in that rawness, you'll start to build. From scratch, from something real. Don't resist the fire. Rise through it. You can't control the flames. You can't rush the process. You don't get to decide how hot it gets. But you do get to choose how you walk through it. Some men get bitter. Some men get broken. But some get rebuilt. They rise. Not all the fire rises, not because it didn't hurt, but because they refused to let the hurt define them. They allowed it to burn away what no longer served them. And when they came out on the other side, they didn't need to prove anything. They just were. The fire didn't make them perfect, it made them pure. You don't need all the answers. You don't need a 5-year plan. You just need the courage to stay in the fire long enough to become unshakable. The fire is not your enemy. It's the heat of your purpose, the cost of clarity, the pressure that brings out presence. The fire isn't trying to ruin you. It's trying to reveal you. You're not being destroyed. You're being defined. And when the smoke finally clears, when the noise fades and the world falls silent, you won't walk out the same. You'll walk out heavier, sharper, quieter, and stronger. Not a man who was broken and repaired, but a man who was reforged. Not a man made by fire, but a man made for it. Chapter 6. Let the silence shape you. Silence doesn't mean nothing's happening. It means everything is. You live in a world that never shuts up. Constant noise, notifications, deadlines, opinions, advice, demands, movement, distraction. You're surrounded by motion, by pressure, by the expectation to always be doing, always be proving, always be performing. But silence is different. It doesn't chase you. It doesn't demand. It waits, still, patient, and heavy. And when you finally stop running, when you finally strip away the noise, the pretending, the scrolling, the performing, you arrive. You arrive into a space you didn't know you'd been avoiding, and you realize something crucial. Silence isn't empty. It's full. Full of answers. Full of truth. Full of weight that can't be ignored. It holds the things you've buried, the thoughts you've drowned in distraction, the pain you've numbed with noise, the doubts you've covered in false certainty. And when the world finally shuts up, that's when the real voice starts to speak. Silence reveals the man. It shows you where your mind goes when no one is steering it. It exposes what you're really made of, not what you show others, but what you whisper to yourself when the lights go out. And if you can sit in that silence long enough, you don't just see yourself, you begin to hear yourself. And that's where everything begins to change. Noise distracts, silence directs. Noise isn't just sound. It's the stuff that keeps you from facing yourself. It's the endless mental chatter, the digital clutter, the emotional fog. You think it helps, but it keeps you sane. That it keeps you going, but it's keeping you weak. Noise numbs, noise delays, noise gives you an excuse not to move, not to grow. You've been using busyness as a shield, using distraction as a drug, using noise as a mask. But silence? Silence takes all of that away, and it puts the power back in your hands. Suddenly, you start seeing the patterns, the ones you've been too overwhelmed to notice, the loops you've been stuck in, the lies you've accepted as truth. Let us know of the world's pain, says Lee, the goals you're chasing that aren't even yours. Silence doesn't give you a way out, it gives you a way in. It recenters you, refines you, rebuilds you. Most men are afraid of silence. They'd rather feel overwhelmed than feel alone. They'd rather stay busy than they'd rather react than reflect. Because silence is uncomfortable. It strips away the distractions, the titles, the filters, the applause. It leaves you bare. And most men don't like who they are without the noise. They've tied their identity to performance, to output, to recognition. But real men, men who are rebuilding, they know this. You cannot become who you're meant to be if you never meet yourself, and you only meet yourself in silence. Let the silence do its work. This is where men are forged, not in crowds, not in chaos, but in solitude. Real solitude, the kind where there's no audience, no outcome, no agenda. Just you, your breath, and the space between your thoughts. You want clarity? Step away. You want focus? Cut deeper. You want peace? Then stop performing and listen. Because in the silence, things start to rise. The instincts you've ignored, the boundaries you've been too afraid to draw, the values you lost under the weight of fitting in. Silence doesn't push you, it centers you. And from that center, something powerful begins to emerge. Certainty, direction, self-respect. The man you were meant to be doesn't rise out of applause. He rises out of stillness. The hardest conversations are the quietest. You want to rebuild your life? Then sit in silence long enough to have the conversations you've been avoiding. Ask yourself, what pain am I pretending I'm past? What relationships are still draining me? What compromises am I still making out of fear? What's the one truth I keep burying? What would I do if I wasn't afraid? You don't need to journal it. You don't need to broadcast it. You just need to face it. Silence isn't a weakness. It's a weapon. We've been trained to fill every gap, to talk, to post, to prove, to defend. But what if the strongest thing you could do was nothing? No reaction, no explanation, just presence. Because silence is not absence, it's control. When the world wants you loud, silence is resistance. When life feels chaotic, silence is power. When you feel lost, silence is the compass. It's how you return to yourself. You don't need noise to prove your value. You don't need motion to create meaning. Sometimes the loudest thing a man can do is say nothing. Not because he's lost, but because he's found. Let the silence shape you. Let it refine what the fire revealed. Let it speak where ego used to shout. Let it strip away the surface and anchor your soul in depth. Because the man who rises from silence, he doesn't come back louder, he comes back unshakable. Chapter 7. You can't numb the pain and keep the power. Every time you run from pain, you trade strength for comfort. There's a lie that's been sold to men for years, maybe for centuries, that pain is a problem to avoid. That discomfort is dangerous. That if it hurts, it must be wrong. So we run, we distract, we numb. But here's the truth. You cannot numb the pain and keep the power. When you mute the wound, you also mute the warning. When you bury the emotion, you bury the strength that could have awakened. When you dodge discomfort, you dodge discipline, growth, and grit. Paying is the price of power, and most men are flat broke. You can't selectively numb. You think you're just turning off the pain, just escaping the stress, just disconnecting for a bit. But it never works that way. You can't numb pain without also numbing joy. You can't numb fear without also silencing courage. You can't numb failure without also dulling the lessons. When you turn down the volume on your emotions, you don't just cut out the bad ones. You flatten everything. You become a hollowed-out version of yourself, calm on the outside, but lost underneath. And that emptiness, that's the cost of avoiding what you were meant to face. Your coping mechanisms are costing you. You think you're managing. You think you've found your balance. But you're really just building a life around avoidance. Another scroll, another drink, another show. Another meaningless conversation. Another pointless plan to start tomorrow. It adds up. Every escape you justify is another ounce of strength you give away. Every time you soothe, instead of sit with the discomfort, you surrender your edge. That edge is what made you sharp, focused, real. And every time you numb out, it dies a little more. Pain is the gateway to power. You want more discipline? Then sit in the discomfort and choose control. You want more clarity? Then let the pain clear out the noise. You want more presence? Then feel what you've been avoiding. Pain is not a dead end. It's an invitation, an initiation. It asks, are you willing to feel what you've been afraid to face? Because if you are, that's where the real transformation begins. That's where strength stops being something you fake and starts being something you own. Avoidance is a slow death. It doesn't kill you fast. It doesn't wreck everything in one shot. That would be easier. It kills you slowly, silently, with numbed mornings and distracted nights, with a job that means nothing, with a relationship that's shallow, with habits that sedate rather than sharpen. You don't notice it at first, but one day you wake up, and you're gone. No fire, no fight. Just a man going through the motions, hoping no one notices he checked out years ago. You didn't lose your power in one moment. You traded it away, one numbed truth at a time. Power belongs to the man who feels everything and still chooses discipline. Not the man who hides behind coldness, not the man who wears anger like armor, not the man who pretends he doesn't care, but the man who feels it all and still stands, still shows up, still builds. You don't become powerful by being untouchable. You become powerful by being undeniable. Because nothing inside you is hidden, nothing is off limits, nothing owns you anymore. You've walked into the fire, and you didn't run. Don't numb it, name it, face it, use it. Pain has a message, but you've been muting it. What if, instead, you turn toward it? What if you stopped escaping? What if you let it shape you, the real you, not the numb one, not the busy one, not the version you show the world, but the man who feels it all and turns it into fuel. That's your edge. That's your fire. That's your power. Stop numbing. Start rising. Chapter 8. You're allowed to start over. Just don't start soft. Starting over isn't weak. Starting soft is. Life will break you. That's not up for debate. But how you rebuild, that's where your power lives. There comes a moment when you look around and realize the life you built was based on survival, not strength, on comfort, not calling. And you know, something has to change. You have to start again. But here's the trap. Most men start over with softness. They compromise to fit in. They tone down their fire so others don't feel the heat. They play small because they're afraid of failing again. They call it wisdom, but it's fear, dressed up in strategy. Starting over requires strength, not permission. No one's going to hand you a fresh start. No one's going to clear the path or cheer you on. If you wait to be understood, you'll die waiting. If you wait to be supported, you'll build nothing. Starting over doesn't need applause. It needs grit. It needs a spine. It needs the kind of self-respect that says, I don't care how long it takes, I'm building this, right? Not desperation. Soft starts die fast. The man who starts soft is already apologizing, already negotiating, already afraid of his own voice. You can see it in his posture, hear it in his language, feel it in his hesitation. He's not building. He's seeking validation. That man doesn't last. Because the first storm exposes him, the first failure folds him. But the man who starts hard, clear, focused, honest, he's not swayed by outcomes. He's defined by process. He doesn't hope it works. He makes it work. Chapter 9. Rebuilding means ruining what kept you weak. You can't rebuild your life without first tearing down the parts of you that kept you small. Rebuilding isn't just about new habits and better routines. It's not just waking up early or hitting the gym or deleting distractions. That's maintenance, not transformation. If you want real change, you need demolition. You need to go to war with the version of yourself that survived by staying small, by pleasing, by hiding, by settling. You can't build strength on a weak foundation, and you can't grow into a new life while still protecting the old one. Something has to be ruined. The life you built was a survival strategy. Look closely. The job, the relationship, the beliefs, the routines. A lot of what you call life was just a response to fear. You built it to cope, not to thrive. You stayed in a job because it paid enough to keep you quiet. You stayed in a version of yourself that didn't make waves. You made compromises and called it maturity. You gave up your voice to keep the peace. That life didn't build you. It shrunk you. And now, you have to tear it down, piece by piece. Tearing down what protected you will hurt. Don't expect it to be clean. Don't expect it to be celebrated. Don't expect it to be understood. The people who benefited from your weakness won't clap for your strength. Be some deep, solid stones. When you stop playing the role, you'll feel the silence. When you stop over-explaining, you'll feel the distance. You're not broken. You're breaking free. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not too much. You're not too serious. You're not too intense. You're done pretending, done performing, done playing it safe. You're not broken. You're breaking free. Let the old roles burn. Let the fake version of you die. Let the ruin make room for something real. Because the man you're becoming, he doesn't apologize for existing. He doesn't shrink for approval. He doesn't delay his power to make others comfortable. He ruins what kept him weak and rebuilds in silence. From the ground up, on his terms. Chapter 10. Discipline is the proof you're done lying to yourself. If you really meant it, you'd show up, not talk about it. Talk is cheap. Promises are easy. Motivation fades. But discipline is different. Discipline is the daily decision that proves you're no longer buying your own excuses. It's the quiet repetition that separates a man who wants change from a man who's doing something about it. It's not about hype. It's not about how loud you start. It's about how steady you move when no one's watching. Because when you're done lying to yourself, that's when many of you are in control. Excuses sound smart until you're tired of hearing them. You know the lines. I'll start tomorrow. I'm waiting for clarity. Sounds responsible. Sounds thoughtful. Sounds strategic. It's not. It's fear. Fear of failing. Your actions are the loudest apology you can make. You've let yourself down before. You've quit too early. You've broken promises to others and to yourself. No need to explain. No need to defend. No need to wallow. Just get up and prove it differently. Every day you show up, without excuse, without fanfare, is a step toward becoming someone you can trust again. Discipline is redemption. It's how you rebuild belief. One rep, one decision, one honest day at a time. A man who keeps his word to himself can't be stopped. He doesn't need hype. He doesn't need validation. He doesn't need motivation. Because his standard is internal. His why is personal. His discipline is non-negotiable. He's not perfect, but he's present. And every day he shows up, he becomes undeniable. That's what you're building. That's who you're becoming. Discipline isn't about suffering. It's about alignment. And when you're aligned, there's nothing left to prove. You're just doing what men do, showing up, locked in, and done lying to yourself. Burn the old blueprints. What failed you before? The hustle with no heart. The mask that made you fit in but kept you fake. The fantasy that discipline was optional. Good, let it burn. You're not here to tweak a broken system. You're here to tear it down and build something true. No more borrowed goals. No more filtered ambitions. No more chasing someone else's version of success. This time, it's personal. This time, it's war. Begin again, with blood in your teeth. Start with hunger. Start with scars. Start with silence. But whatever you do, don't start soft. Don't water down your standards to be liked. Don't apologize for taking up space. Don't play nice with the parts of you that held you back. Build slow, build deep, build quiet. And when you rise, you won't need to shout. You'll be known by your presence. You don't owe anyone a gentle rebuild. The world may expect you to come back softer, to smile more, to bend more, to lower your edge. But you don't owe them that. You're not rebuilding to be more palatable. You're rebuilding to be real. Chapter 11. The man who builds in silence wins twice. If you don't need attention to stay committed, you've already won. You don't need the world to know you're changing. You need to change. You don't need applause to start building. You need to build. Most men talk about what they're going to do. They speak in plans, in ideas, in intentions. They narrate a journey they haven't started. But the man who builds in silence, he's a different breed. He doesn't talk, he moves. And when he's done, there's nothing left to explain. Loud is easy. Quiet is real. Anyone can post a goal. Anyone can talk about their comeback. Anyone can package their pain into something presentable. But quiet work is harder, because there's no payoff up front, no likes, no feedback, no reassurance. Just a man, his mission, and the silence between each brick. You build anyway, because you're not building to be seen. You're building to be solid. When you build in silence, you build for real. You can't fake silence. You can't posture without an audience. You can't pretend when there's no one to impress. In silence, the only feedback is your own conscience. The only standard is the one you set. That's where integrity is forged. That's where focus becomes unbreakable. Silence removes the addictions. The addiction to validation. The addiction to momentum. The addiction to looking like you're doing something instead of actually doing it. Most men need noise to feel like they're progressing. But the real ones, they know. Progress doesn't always look impressive. Sometimes it's boring. Sometimes it's lonely. Sometimes it's dead silent. And that's exactly where it should be. He who builds in silence wins twice. The first win is inward. You become someone you can trust. No shortcuts, no inflation, no performance, just quiet execution, stacked daily. The second win is undeniable. Because when it's time to speak, you don't need words. Your results speak for you. They won't ask what happened. They'll ask, where did this man come from? And you'll just nod, because the silence already told your story. Keep building. Let them talk. Let them guess. Let the silence speak loudest. Chapter 12. There is no growth without friction. If it's comfortable, it isn't changing you. Growth isn't smooth. It's rough. It scrapes. It stretches. It breaks what's brittle and exposes what's weak. That's how you know it's working. There is no growth without friction. Friction is the resistance you feel when old patterns collide with new standards. It's what you feel when you say no to comfort and yes to challenge. It's the burn and the build. Most men avoid it. They call it stress. They call it burnout. They call it a sign to back off. But real men, they lean in. The resistance is the training. Friction isn't the enemy. It's the resistance that makes you stronger. Every rep in the gym, every hard conversation, every uncomfortable decision, that's friction. And it's making you solid. You don't grow from what's easy. You grow from what tests you. You grow when you do what you'd rather avoid. When you choose tension over numbness. When you press forward, not because it feels good, but because it shapes you. Every inch of strength you build is earned through resistance. You want peace? Fight for it. You want freedom? Bleed for it. You want strength? Struggle for it. That's friction. Comfort is a cage with cushions. It doesn't feel like a trap. That's the trick. Comfort whispers, "You've earned this. Just rest a while." It invites you to sit, to soften, to stay where it's warm and easy. But stay too long, and it breaks you. Not all at once. Slowly. You stop reaching. You stop risking. You stop rising. You decay in place. The man who lives in comfort dies quietly. Not in body, in purpose. He forgets what he could have been. Friction reveals the parts that still need work. When you feel friction, don't run. Look closer. What's resisting? Where does it hurt? Why does it shake you? That's where the work is. That's the edge you need to sharpen. Friction isn't a flaw in your path. It is the path. It tells you what to strengthen, what to strip away, what to reinforce. When you stop fearing friction, you start forging yourself. The fire and the forge. Friction creates heat. But so does forging. The fire that tests you is also the fire that tempers you. You're not being punished. You're being shaped. You're not breaking. You're burning away the parts that won't last. Growth isn't sterile. It's violent. It's painful. It takes a man apart and rebuilds him stronger. You want to rise? You've got to burn. Stop asking for it to be easier. You don't need easier. You need stronger. You need to stop asking for softer roads and start building harder feet. The world isn't going to shrink for you. The noise won't stop. The pressure won't pause. But you can grow strong enough to rise through it. That's what friction is for. Not to block you, but to build you. Pressure reveals the man. Anyone can talk discipline when life is easy. Anyone can sound wise when they're rested and praised. But pressure, that's the test. Pressure exposes weakness. Pressure tests belief. Pressure strips away every excuse and leaves only the truth. Did you mean it? Are you ready? Will you stand? When everything shakes, only the grounded remain. And friction makes you grounded. The edge is meant to be lived on. Life at the edge isn't chaotic. It's clean. It's focused. It's where you feel alive again. When you leave the comfort zone, you feel your pulse return. Your clarity sharpens. Your purpose roars. Friction wakes you up. Most men are asleep in comfort. You're here to wake up. So stay on the edge. Stay uncomfortable. Stay challenged. Because there is no growth without friction, and you were not made to stay soft. You were made to sharpen, over and over, until every dull part is gone. Friction is your friend. Let it shape you. Let it scar you. Let it strengthen you. That's how real men grow. That's how legacies are made. Chapter 13. If you want to heal, stop hiding. You can't conquer what you keep in the dark. Healing starts where hiding ends. Most men carry their pain like a secret, locked tight, hidden deep, covered in shame or silence. But what stays buried never heals. What stays hidden festers. You can't fix what you won't face. You can't master what you won't name. You're not weak for being wounded. You're only weak if you lie about it. Wounds don't shrink in silence. We think if we ignore it, it will fade. We think if we stay busy, it will fix itself. We think if we look strong enough, we'll become strong. But all that hiding does is slow the bleeding. Real healing begins with brutal honesty. This hurt me. This broke me. This changed me. You don't need a stage. You don't need to confess it to the world. But you do need to stop lying to yourself. Pain is not the problem. Hiding is. Pain is part of life. But still not. It's the hiding that destroys men. Because hiding creates shame. Shame creates isolation. And isolation turns a wound into a weapon. You start hurting others. You start sabotaging yourself. You start believing the pain is you. But it's not. It's just a part of your story. And it's begging to be faced. Naming. It takes its power away when you give pain a name. You strip it of its shadow. You say, this happened. And now it's real. It's on the table. It's no longer in control. You name it, you own it. And when you own it, you can outgrow it. Men who heal don't wait for time to fix them. They face their demons head on. They drag the darkness into daylight. And it doesn't destroy them, it frees them. You can't heal and pretend at the same time. Pretending is the addiction. Pretending you're fine. Pretending you're over it. Pretending it didn't matter. But healing is war. It's tearing the scab off so the wound can close right. It's not pretty, it's not polished, but it's real. And real is the only way you ever build a life worth living. What you hide will haunt you. What you face will free you. You can spend your whole life avoiding pain, or you can walk straight into it and come out clean. Not perfect, not untouched, but real, present, and whole. The men who heal aren't the ones who've never bled. They're the ones who stopped pretending they didn't. Drop the act. Face the mirror. Call it what it is. That's the first real breath you'll take in years. Because if you want to heal, you have to stop hiding. Chapter 14. It's not about motivation. It's about ownership. Motivation is fleeting. Ownership is forever. Most men wait for motivation. They wait to feel like it. They wait for the mood, for the spark, for the fire. It comes and goes. And if you wait for it, you'll waste your life waiting. Oh, it comes and goes. Ownership is different. Ownership decides. That's how men rebuild. Not with mood swings, but with mastery. Motivation is emotion. Ownership is identity. Motivation asks, how do I feel today? Oh, the fact is that in me, I feel also me. Motivation relies on comfort, on energy, on ideal conditions. Ownership shows up regardless, because ownership is who you are, not just how you feel. You don't need hype, you need conviction. You don't need sparks, you need a backbone. The excuses don't matter anymore. When you choose ownership, your excuses become irrelevant. Tired, do it tired. Busy, do it anyway. Sad, do it scared. Because ownership doesn't argue with difficulty, it faces it. Every man has a reason to quit, but the man who owns his path never stops to negotiate. He walks, he bleeds, he builds. You can't blame and own at the same time. Blame is the language of the weak. Blame says, it's someone else's fault. Ownership says, it's my responsibility. You didn't choose all your circumstances, but you choose how you respond to them. Ownership means every result in your life, good or bad, is your work. It means if you're not where you want to be, you build the bridge. If something is broken, you fix it. If something is missing, you create it. Because if you don't own it, you can't change it. The man who owns his life doesn't need to prove anything. When you live with ownership, you don't need validation. You don't need applause. You don't need people to see your grind. Because you're not doing it for them. You're doing it because you said you would. Ownership isn't loud. It's consistent. It doesn't chase praise. It chases standards. And it hits them, even when no one's watching. You don't need a new plan. You need a new mindset. Most men keep looking for better strategies. They chase hacks, tools, blueprints, but they don't follow through. Why? Because they haven't made the mental shift from hoping to owning. Ownership says, this is on me. No one is coming. If it's going to change, I have to move. It's not about being perfect. It's about being responsible. And real responsibility is rare, because it's heavy. But that's how you get strong. Make your word a law. If you say you'll do it, do it. Not because you feel like it, not because it's easy, but because that's who you are now. Every time you follow through, you reinforce the truth. You're a man who can be trusted, even by yourself. And when you trust yourself, your confidence becomes unshakable. That's not motivation, that's identity. Motivation is a spark. Ownership is the fire. You don't need more motivation. You need to stop negotiating with weakness. You don't need a better mood. You need better standards. You don't need perfect conditions. You need relentless ownership. Because once you own your time, once you own your habits, once you own your pain, your growth, your future, you become unstoppable. Not because it's easy, but because it's yours. Chapter 15. You'll never rise higher than your standards. A man doesn't hit what he wants. He hits what he accepts. You don't get what you dream about. You don't get what you wish for. You get what you demand from yourself. And that demand is set by one thing: your standards. Not what you say, not what you hope, what you tolerate. If you keep accepting laziness, you'll keep living small. If you keep tolerating excuses, you'll keep cycling in place. If you keep letting yourself off the hook, don't be shocked when life does the same. Standards are the ceiling of your life. You don't rise to your goals, you fall to your standards. If your standard is I try, then trying is all you'll do. And if your standard is I show up no matter what, that becomes your foundation. Discipline lives in standards. Progress lives in standards. Self-respect is born from standards. Because when you stop making room for weakness, strength has no choice but to grow. The world doesn't respect wishes, it responds to standards. The world doesn't care about what you say you want. It mirrors what you demand from yourself. That's why some men move forward while others stay stuck. They're not more talented. They're not luckier. They just set a higher standard and refuse to live beneath it. That refusal, that's power. Because once a man decides what he will no longer tolerate, he changes. Not someday, instantly. What you allow is what you become. If you allow disrespect, you teach people how to treat you. If you allow weakness, you teach your body how to fail. If you allow laziness, you train your mind to bend. And the opposite is just as true. Set the bar higher, and your life will stretch to meet it. It's not about perfection. It's about the minimum you will accept from yourself, in thought, in action, in identity. Your standards are built in private. They're not public declarations. They're quiet, brutal decisions. I don't hit snooze. I don't ghost responsibilities. I don't fake commitment. I don't shrink from hard truths. I don't wait for someone else to go first. These are laws, not feelings. And you enforce them when no one's watching. That's what makes them real. Raise the standard. Watch the weak parts die. When you raise your standard, parts of your old self will panic. They'll say, "You're being too hard." You've earned some slack. Why not take it easy this time? Those are the voices of weakness, and they die off when you hold the line. You don't kill the old you in one big act. You starve him by refusing to feed him excuses. Comfort lowers standards. Pressure raises them. Comfort whispers, "Just this once." Pressure demands, "Who are you really?" And in that moment, when your mood dips, when your energy fades, your standard answers for you. If the bar is high, you show up. If the bar is low, you make excuses. So raise the bar, because standards aren't heavy, weakness is. Men don't rise by accident, they rise by code. Every strong man lives by a code, a quiet, relentless commitment to his standards. He doesn't need to yell it, he doesn't need to tattoo it, he just lives it. And every day, he proves one thing: I don't rise and fall with the wind. I rise with my standard. If your standard is solid, you will be too. Chapter 16. The man who chooses stillness in a loud world. Silence doesn't mean weakness. It means control. The world is loud, too loud. Everyone has something to say, something to prove, something to scream. Noise has become the default. Volume has become virtue. But the man who chooses stillness, he's dangerous. Because stillness isn't emptiness, it's discipline. It's power, focused. It's presence, sharpened. It's a refusal to let the world dictate your inner volume. When you stop matching the noise, you start hearing yourself. Stillness is a weapon. Stillness isn't weakness, it's control. Anyone can react. Anyone can argue. Anyone can chase clout, attention, noise. But it takes a real man to be still, To respond, not react. To listen, not bark. To hold center while the world loses balance. Stillness says, I don't need to prove myself. I don't need to be loud to be strong. I don't need to win every argument. I just need to win the war within. The world trains you to react. Stillness trains you to rule. Click this. Respond to that. Stay updated. Be outraged. Everything's designed to steal your attention and your power. But stillness takes it back. Stillness says, I control what gets in. I choose what moves me. I dictate the terms of my mind. That's not passivity. That's power. A man who can sit in silence without going insane is a man who has met himself. In stillness, you meet the real you. Noise distracts. Stillness reveals. In stillness, you see your thoughts clearly. In stillness, your shadows surface. In stillness, the truth speaks, and it's usually not pretty. And only reality can be rebuilt. Stillness is a mirror, and most men are too afraid to look. But if you do, you can begin the real work. Silence isn't the absence of noise, it's the presence of strength. Loud men want to be heard. Quiet men already know. A man who has to shout about his strength doesn't have any. A man who walks in silence but lives with discipline, resolve, and integrity. He needs no validation. Stillness isn't just about being quiet. It's about being sure. Sure of who you are. Sure of what you value. Sure of what you won't give your energy to. Stillness creates clarity. Clarity creates power. You can't think when you're always reacting. You can't plan when you're always plugged in. You can't grow when your attention is scattered. Stillness is the reset, the filter, the fire. You step back, you breathe, you regain control, and from that control, you make moves that matter. Most men make noise. Few make impact. Stillness is how you move from one to the other. Train your mind to be silent in the storm. Stillness isn't something you wait for. It's something you build daily. It's the 10 minutes alone without a screen. It's the walk without music. It's the choice to observe, not react. Chapter 17. The pain was sent to shape you. The wound was never meant to end you. It was meant to wake you. Pain doesn't show up without purpose. It's not random. It's not punishment. It's a message. It says, there's something in you that needs to die, and something else that needs to rise in its place. But most men don't listen. They numb it. They hide it. They drown it in distractions. And in doing so, they miss the gift. Yes, the gift. Because pain, real pain, is the teacher that comfort could never be. Pain reveals what was weak. You don't know what you're made of until something breaks. You don't know what you believe until life punches you in the mouth. You don't know who you are until you've lost something you thought you couldn't live without. Pain doesn't lie. It shows you what's fragile. It shows you what's fake. It shows you the gap between the man you pretend to be and the man you actually are. And that's the beginning of becoming real. You either use the pain or it uses you. There are only two choices. You can let the pain harden you, twist you, make you bitter, or you can let it carve you into something stronger. You can sit in the wreckage and curse the storm, or you can use the pieces and build something better. The pain already happened. You don't get to choose that, but you do get to choose what comes next. What broke you can build you, if you let it. The same pain that knocked you down can be the fire that builds your strength. The betrayal, it taught you boundaries. The failure, it taught you resilience. The silence, it taught you how to listen. Every scar has something to give you if you stop running from it. Turn toward it. Ask what it's trying to teach you. Take the lesson and leave the wound behind. Pain isn't the end. It's the invitation. It's the moment life asks, do you want to change? Or do you want to stay here? It's the moment that demands a decision. Will you stay bitter, or will you build something better? Pain is the threshold, the dividing line between who you were and who you could become. But you have to choose to cross it. No one can drag you. No one can force you. It's yours, all yours. And the man who walks through pain comes at new. The man who rises from pain fears nothing. He's already bled. He's already broken. He's already buried his past. And now, he's clean, focused, unshakable. Because once you've walked through hell and refused to die, what's left to be afraid of? You've met your demons, and you didn't blink. Now you carry that fire with you. You don't have to shout. You don't have to prove. Your presence says enough. Chapter 18. The man who builds quietly, he doesn't shout. He builds, and when he's done, there's nothing left to prove. There's strength in silence. Not the silence of passivity, but the silence of a man who no longer needs attention. The loudest man in the room is often the weakest. The most disciplined man. He moves quietly. He builds in the dark. He lets results speak for him. No announcements, no applause, just progress. Because real builders don't need spotlights. They need solitude. Noise is a distraction. Silence is a strategy. The world trains you to perform, to share every move, to beg for likes, validation, and approval. But if you're serious about building something real, you'll need to walk away from the noise. Not forever, but long enough to build something that doesn't need explaining. Men who build quietly aren't hiding, they're protecting the work. Because they know, exposure too early weakens the foundation. Work in silence, deliver in strength. It's tempting to talk about your plans, to get the dopamine hit before you've earned it. But that hit comes at a cost. Discipline. Every time you talk about what you will do instead of doing it, you give away power. Quiet builders hold that power. They turn every ounce of energy inward, into the grind, into the craft, into the mission. And when they emerge, they don't need to say anything, because the work speaks. Quiet progress is still progress. No applause? Good. No recognition? Even better. You don't need a crowd to confirm the value of your work. You need consistency. You need patience. You need the daily decision to show up, even when no one's watching. That's how real things are built. That's how real men are forged. The man who builds quietly doesn't fear collapse, because he knows the work is real. It wasn't a show. It wasn't a brand. It was forged in sweat, solitude, and quiet discipline. You can strip away the spotlight, and he's still solid. You can take away the audience, and he's still building. Because he never needed permission to rise. He just needed a reason, and pain gave him that reason. Build so strong, you don't have to explain. When the results come, the same people who ignored you will ask how you did it. But you won't be bitter. You'll just smile. Because while they watched others, you were working. Let them talk. You keep building. The world talks, distracts, criticizes. Final word. Let them talk. You keep building. The world talks, distracts, criticizes. Scrolls. But the quiet man, he keeps laying bricks. Day after day, without fanfare, without noise. And when he's done, there's nothing left to prove. Because the foundation is deep, the structure is solid, and the man behind it, unshakable. Chapter 19. The mountain doesn't move for you. You move for it. The mountain is not unfair. It's just unmoved. Lift doesn't shift to fit your feelings. The mountain doesn't lower itself to meet you halfway. It stands, tall, indifferent, unchanged. It doesn't care if you're tired. It doesn't care if you're scared. It doesn't care how unfair the climb feels. The mountain doesn't move for you. You move for it. And the sooner you accept that, the stronger you get. The climb doesn't care, but it rewards the committed. Most men waste time asking, why is it so hard? But that's not the question. The question is, are you willing to climb anyway? Because hardship isn't personal, it's the price. You don't conquer the mountain by complaining. You conquer it by climbing, one brutal, breathless step at a time. That's how it's always been. That's how it will always be. Discomfort is the currency of ascent. You want to rise, pay in sweat, pay in doubt, pay in effort. Comfort is easy. It costs nothing, and it gives you even less. But discomfort, that's where men are made. That's where standards shift. That's where clarity comes. The top isn't crowded, because most men won't pay. But if you do, you'll learn something no one can take. Proof. Proof that you endured. Proof that you climbed. Proof that you didn't quit. You don't have to want it. You just have to keep going. There are days you'll hate the process. There are days you'll want to turn around. There are days you'll ask yourself if it's even worth it. That's normal. But what matters isn't how you feel, it's what you do. Because the mountain only moves for one thing, movement. Not motivation, not talent, not luck. Just relentless, disciplined steps. One more, and then one more, and then one more. The view is earned, not given. There's a peace that comes when you've suffered for something real, when you've dragged yourself through storms, when you've taken hits and kept going, when you've looked up at the peak and still chosen to climb. That kind of peace can't be bought. It can't be faked. It can't be explained. It's earned. And the man who earns it becomes someone he can finally respect. Chapter 20. The Man Who Came Back Stronger. He wasn't spared the pain. He just didn't let it define him. Every man breaks. Life doesn't ask for permission. It comes hard and fast. It knocks you down. Sometimes when you're not ready. Sometimes when you thought you were. And when you're on the ground, bleeding, exhausted, stripped of every illusion, that's when the world watches. Not to see if you'll suffer, but to see if you'll rise. Rock bottom is not the end. It's the floor you build from there. There's no shame in falling. The shame is in staying down. Rock bottom strips the noise. It breaks the lies. It humbles the ego. But it also gives you something rare. A clean slate. A new foundation. A second chance that doesn't come with applause, but with responsibility. No more pretending. No more waiting. Just work. Just rebuilding. Just rising. The man who returns is not the man who fell. You might have the same name. You might live in the same house. But inside, you're different. Stronger. Wiser. More focused. Because once you've walked through fire, you don't fear smoke. You don't react like you used to. You don't chase what you used to. You don't tolerate what you used to. You've been reborn in reality. Scars are your proof. You don't need validation. You don't need approval. You carry proof in your scars. They remind you. You endured. You got up. You came back. And not with noise. Not with hype. But with quiet fire. The kind of fire no storm can put out. The kind of strength no loss can erase. Let the past fuel you, not define you. You are not what happened to you. You are what you chose after it. You could have stayed bitter. You chose better. You could have blamed. You took ownership. You could have shrunk. You stand tall. And every day you keep choosing, you keep winning. Final word. You came back. And that changes everything. This is not a comeback story fueled by ego. Outro plus CTA. You made it to the end. That says something. You're not just listening, you're building. Quietly, relentlessly. And if this message hit home, there's more waiting. Subscribe to Darkwood Audiobooks. For the man who's done making excuses and ready to rebuild. New chapters. No noise. Just truth. Hit that bell. Share it with the brother who needs it. Because this is how we rise.